Zombie lunch day. It was supposed to be a normal Tuesday at school, the kind where nothing exciting happens, and the highlight of your day is whether the cafeteria serves pizza or chicken nuggets. But that Tuesday became legendary. People still whisper about it in the hallways. We call it Zombie Lunch Day. The first hint that something was off came the moment I stepped into the cafeteria. Usually, the smell of greasy pizza and mystery meat hit you right away, making your stomach churn or growl, depending on how hungry you were. But today, there was another smell, sharp and sour, almost like spoiled pickles mixed with gym socks. I wrinkled my nose. Derek, walking beside me, sniffed the air too. "Bro," he said, holding his tray like a shield. "Is it just me? Or does it smell like someone microwaved a dead frog?" I laughed nervously. "Relax. It's probably just Tuesday's mystery casserole." But deep down, I wasn't so sure. The line was packed as usual. Kids shoved each other. Trays clattered. Teachers pretended not to notice. Behind the counter, Mrs. Parker, our lunch lady, was working like a robot, scooping sloppy joes with mechanical precision. Her hairnet was crooked, and she looked more tired than usual. She slid a sloppy joe onto my tray, added a carton of milk, and then dropped dessert on top. At first glance, it looked like green Jell-O, harmless, wobbly, normal. But then it moved. I froze. The blob twitched like it had a heartbeat. I blinked hard, rubbed my eyes, but it pulsed again. Mrs. Parker," I whispered, tilting the tray. "Is this fresh?" She didn't even look up. "Eat your food, dear," she muttered, scooping potatoes for the next kid. I carried my tray to our usual table, trying not to spill. Derek was already there, halfway through his sandwich. "Took you long enough," he said, mouth full. "Forget the sandwich," I hissed. I slid the tray in front of him. "Look." Derek leaned in, and right on cue, the Jell-O pulsed like a tiny green heart. Derek screamed so loudly, he scared 3 kids at the next table. His sandwich fell on the floor. "Bro, your dessert is alive." People laughed at first. "Nice prank," one kid said. But then, as if the universe wanted to back us up, another blob twitched, then another. Soon every green Jell-O in the cafeteria began to wiggle. One leapt off a tray. Another slid onto the floor. The room erupted in chaos. Trays crashed. Milk cartons exploded. A kid screamed, "It's eating my arm." Though really, the blob was just stuck to his sleeve. Still, panic spread fast. One blob crawled across the principal's clipboard, leaving a slimy trail. Another jumped straight into someone's hair. Even Kevin Bighead, the school bully, looked pale as he swatted at the green goo climbing his arm. "Everyone stay calm," the principal shouted, charging into the cafeteria. She held up her clipboard like a weapon. But before she could finish, one of the blobs flung itself at her face. She shrieked, dropped the clipboard, and stumbled into a table. Gasps echoed. The principal, our fearless leader, had been slimed. Derek clutched my arm. "We gotta fight back." "With what?" I shouted over the noise. "It's dessert." "Exactly. Food fight rules apply." He dug into his backpack and pulled out, of course, a bottle of hot sauce. Don't ask why Derek always carries hot sauce. I stopped wondering years ago. He squeezed it onto the nearest blob. The Jell-O shriveled, hissed like it was burning, and collapsed into a puddle. "Spicy kills them," Derek yelled. The message spread instantly. "Use condiments," kids shouted. Suddenly, ketchup, mustard, and ranch dressing became weapons. The cafeteria turned into a battlefield. Meatballs flew like cannonballs. Mashed potatoes exploded like grenades. Chocolate milk cartons became water bombs. For once, everyone was on the same side, even Kevin. He ducked behind a table, holding 2 trays like shields. "Cover me," he yelled, hurling sloppy joes like frisbees. I couldn't believe it. The biggest jerk in school was fighting beside us. And honestly, he was good at it. Still, the blobs weren't going down easy. Every time one melted, another jumped out from under a tray. The floor was slick with slime. Kids slipped, fell, and got swarmed. Teachers tried to help, but mostly they ended up getting slimed themselves. Mr. Robinson threw an entire stack of math tests at one, shouting, "Finally, a use for algebra." Then the ground shook. The remaining blobs wiggled, rolled, and merged into one gigantic green monster, taller than a locker and twice as slimy. It pulsed like it had a brain of its own. The cafeteria went silent. Then the blob roared, or at least made a noise that sounded like a giant fart. Everyone screamed. "This is the boss level," Derek shouted. The blob lurched forward, slime dripping from its sides. Kids backed against the walls, nowhere to run. Kevin muttered, "We're doomed." Even Mrs. Parker fainted into a pot of mashed potatoes. I gripped the hot sauce bottle Derek shoved into my hand. My knees were shaking, but I took a deep breath. "All right, Jell-O," I muttered. "Time for lunch to fight back." I charged. The blob lunged, wobbling like a trampoline from a nightmare. I squeezed the bottle with all my strength, covering it in red fire. It hissed, bubbled, and shook violently. For a second, I thought it would crush me. Then, boom! The monster exploded into 1,000 chunks, showering the cafeteria with goo. Silence. Green slime dripped from the ceiling. Then the cheering started. Kids jumped up and down, chanting my name. Derek whooped so loudly, my ears rang. Even Kevin gave me a grudging nod. The principal staggered out from under a table, covered head to toe in mashed potatoes. She raised her arms weakly. "Victory," she declared, before slipping on a puddle of slime. When it was over, the cafeteria looked like a war zone. Food splattered the walls, trays shattered, the air thick with the smell of hot sauce. The janitor walked in, took one look around, and said, "Nope, I don't get paid enough for this." Then he turned and left. I collapsed into a chair, my sneakers squishing with green goo. Derek sat beside me, grinning ear to ear. "Dude, you saved the school. You're basically a zombie hunter now." I laughed, wiping slime off my face. "No, man, I'm just a kid who didn't want to lose his lunch." But the truth is, from that day on, nobody ever looked at Jell-O the same way again. Kids poked at it nervously. Teachers banned it from the menu. Even Kevin wouldn't go near the dessert table. And me, I'll never forget the day the cafeteria turned into a zombie apocalypse. But believe it or not, that wasn't the weirdest thing to ever happen at our school. Because just a week later, we had the day the fire alarm went off for no reason.